Nobody in Silverpoint City knew where the sound came from. It started as a low rumble underground, then turned into a violent shake that made every window in the entire city explode at once. Alarms screamed, streetlights flickered, and in the center of the city, right in front of City Hall, the ground split open like something was clawing its way out. People ran, shouting and crying, but they couldn't escape fast enough. A giant shadow rose from the crack in the earth, so tall it covered whole buildings. Its body was twisted like it had been broken and put back together the wrong way. Its long arms stretched across the road, knocking down cars like toys. Its head had no face, only a huge mouth that opened wider and wider until it looked like it could swallow the whole street. The creature let out a roar so loud the street signs bent from the force. Windows shattered everywhere. Store alarms beeped uselessly as people ran in every direction. Fire trucks, police cars, and ambulances rushed toward the scene, but even the sirens sounded small compared to the monster's roar. Then, before anyone could react, another rumble shook the city. A second crack opened near the river, then a third one near the stadium, and slowly, painfully, more shadows climbed out. The city was being attacked, destroyed, taken over by something no one had ever seen before. A young boy named Jacob stood on the rooftop of his apartment building, frozen in fear as he watched the largest creature swing its arm across the skyline. 3 buildings collapsed instantly. Dust and smoke rose high into the air, covering half the city in a gray cloud. His mom grabbed his arm. "Jacob, run. We have to get downstairs now." But Jacob couldn't move. He saw something the others didn't see. The monster was looking right at him, even with no eyes. Jacob felt that stare deep in his bones. Before the creature could move again, the rooftop shook violently. The railing broke. A huge crack spread across the concrete like lightning. Jacob stumbled back, heart pounding so loud he couldn't hear anything else. His mom screamed his name. The building started to lean. It was going to fall, and they were still on top. Everything seemed to freeze for one long, terrible second. Then, hours earlier, Silverpoint City had been perfectly normal. Kids playing in the park, people walking their dogs, food trucks lining up downtown. Jacob and his mom were moving into a new apartment on the 14th floor. It wasn't fancy, but it was the safest they could afford. Jacob spent the morning unpacking boxes and complaining. "Why do we always move? Why can't we stay in the same school for once?" His mom laughed softly. "Because life doesn't always give us what we want. But at least we're together, okay?" Jacob rolled his eyes but smiled anyway. After unpacking, they went outside to explore the city. Silverpoint was bigger and louder than any place they had lived before. Tall buildings, busy traffic, people everywhere. Jacob didn't like crowds. He stayed close to his mom, especially when they walked near the old abandoned subway station. Something about the place felt wrong, like something deep underground was watching. That night, as they sat on the rooftop eating takeout food and watching the city lights, Jacob told his mom he still felt like something was off. She told him it was just nerves. "New places feel scary at first," she said. "You'll get used to it." But Jacob wasn't so sure. Every few minutes, he felt tiny tremors in the ground. Very faint, but real. Like something big was trying to wake up. "Did you feel that?" he asked. His mom shook her head. "Jacob, it's just trucks on the highway. Nothing to worry about." But Jacob couldn't shake the feeling. When they went back inside, he watched TV while his mom unpacked. The news reported strange power outages across the city. Then small earthquakes, nothing huge, but unusual. Then missing animals. Dozens of them. Jacob felt his stomach twist. Something was coming. Something bad. Around midnight, he couldn't sleep. He went to the window and stared out at the quiet city. The lights looked peaceful, but the ground shook again, this time harder. Jacob whispered, "Mom, I think something's happening." She didn't answer. Then another rumble. Then another. And then, the entire city woke up to the sound of the first monster climbing out of the earth. Now Jacob and his mom were trapped on a building that was falling apart. The rooftop cracked again, splitting right between them. His mom screamed, "Jacob, don't move." But the ground under Jacob's feet gave way, and he slid helplessly toward the edge. As the monster reached out its enormous arm toward their collapsing building, Jacob slid across the rooftop floor as the entire building tilted forward, groaning like an old ship sinking into the ocean. His fingers scraped against broken concrete, trying to grab onto anything, a crack, a bolt, a piece of railing. But dust exploded around him, and everything was slipping. "Jacob, His mom screamed from the other side of the split rooftop. He reached out. She reached out. Their fingers were only inches apart. Then the monster's gigantic hand slammed into the side of the building. The rooftop bucked violently. Jacob was thrown backward toward the edge. At the very last second, his hand caught a bent piece of metal sticking from the broken floor. His feet dangled over 15 stories of empty air. Cars below swerved in terror as debris rained down like hail. "Hold on, Jacob. I'm coming," his mom cried. But the crack in the rooftop widened. The building leaned even more. She jumped across the gap, barely making it, and grabbed Jacob's wrist with both hands. For a moment, Jacob felt safe. But then the monster roared. The sound hit them like a blast of wind, shaking the rooftop so hard Jacob's mom lost her balance. She fell to her knees but kept holding him with all her strength. "Don't let go," Jacob cried, his voice breaking. "I won't," she whispered. "I won't ever let go." She pulled him up inch by inch, her arms trembling. Below them, the street split open as another giant shadow crawled out. This one was smaller, but still terrifying, its back covered in long spikes like broken branches, its head twisted like it didn't belong to its body. Street lights flickered off as it climbed onto the road. People screamed as they ran in every direction. Cars crashed. Alarms blared. Smoke rose in thick black clouds. Silverpoint City was falling apart. Finally, Jacob's mom yanked him up onto the rooftop. He collapsed in her arms, shaking and coughing from the dust. "We need to get off this building," she said. "Now." But the stairs inside might be blocked or broken. They had no idea what was waiting below. Jacob stood up and looked around. The rooftop door was bent, barely hanging by one hinge. The building tilted so much the metal water tank slid off its base and crashed loudly against the roof edge. "We go down fast," Jacob said, "before it collapses." His mom nodded. "Stay close, don't look back, and if I tell you to run, you run." They pushed open the rooftop door and stumbled into the dark stairwell. Dust rushed into their faces. The lights flickered weakly. Every step they took caused the building to creak like it was about to fold in half. On the 12th floor, they heard someone crying. "Help! Help me!" Jacob stopped. "Mom, someone's still here." His mom grabbed his shoulder. "We can't." The crying got louder. A little girl's voice. Jacob looked at his mom. She looked at him. They had to help. They opened the door to the 12th floor hallway. Smoke filled the air. Debris lay everywhere. The ceiling above them sagged dangerously. "Hello," Jacob called out. "Where are you?" "Here," the voice whispered. They turned the corner. A little girl stood alone at the far end of the hall. She looked about 6 years old, barefoot, wearing a dirty nightgown. Her hair covered half her face. Jacob's mom whispered, "Sweetie, come to us. We'll take you somewhere safe." The girl didn't move. Then she lifted her head slowly. Her eyes were empty white, and her mouth stretched open far too wide. Jacob froze. "Mom, that's not a little girl." The lights in the hallway went out. Pitch black. Then, a long arm stretched out through the darkness. Not human. Not even close. Jacob's mom shoved him backward. "Run." Jacob sprinted down the hallway, tripping over broken tiles. The creature's footsteps, heavy and wet, echoed behind him. His mom grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the emergency stairs. Something slammed against the wall behind them so hard the whole hallway shook. They pushed through the stairwell door and ran downward. The building groaned like it was crying out in pain. Then a deep boom rattled the entire structure. Jacob knew what it was. One of the big monsters outside had hit the building again. Chunks of concrete fell down the stairwell like giant stones. Jacob and his mom ducked, shielding their heads. The stairs cracked beneath their feet. "Keep going," his mom yelled. "Floor 10. Floor 8. Floor 6. Jacob's legs burned. His lungs hurt. The building swayed harder and harder. Then, on the 4th floor, they reached a landing and froze. A massive hole had ripped open the wall, exposing the entire floor to the outside. Wind blew through. Smoke drifted inside. A police helicopter flew past, searchlights sweeping the city. And below them, Silverpoint City burned. Fires everywhere. Sirens and screams. Cars overturned. Bridges collapsed. Buildings falling like dominoes. Monsters stalking between them like giant shadows. The whole city was being destroyed. Jacob grabbed the railing. "Mom, where do we run to?" She didn't answer, because something huge was crawling up the side of their building. A giant shadow passed over the stairwell. Dust poured from the ceiling. and the creature's glowing mouth opened wide, right outside the broken wall. The creature's glowing mouth pressed closer to the broken wall, lighting the entire stairwell in a sick, pale blue shine. Jacob felt the heat of its breath, like a furnace mixed with ash, blowing directly into his face. The wind was so strong it nearly knocked him backward. "Get away from the edge," Jacob's mom shouted, pulling him behind a cracked pillar. The creature outside growled, a sound so deep the floor vibrated like an earthquake. Its enormous claws scraped against the building as it climbed higher, crushing windows and tearing away pieces of concrete like cardboard. Jacob peeked from behind the pillar. The monster had no eyes, but somehow, it still looked straight at him. He ducked back immediately, heart pounding. "We can't stay here," his mom whispered. "When this floor goes, the whole building will fall." Jacob nodded shakily. "We have to go down." They raced past debris, leaping over cracks splitting through the stairwell. Each step they took, the building leaned more. Screams echoed from below. Somewhere far away, an explosion rocked the street. They reached the third floor when the stairwell in front of them collapsed completely, a huge chunk gone, leaving only open air and a long drop into darkness. Jacob's mom gasped. "We're trapped." But then they heard it, a voice calling from the hallway behind them. "Over here. Hurry." Jacob turned. A man wearing a bright orange vest waved at them from a doorway. Smoke and dust swirled around him. "I'm a firefighter." "This way," he shouted. Jacob didn't hesitate. He and his mom ran toward the man. He held the door open. "Stay low, don't look out the windows." They ran inside. The hallway was cracked and filled with dust. A giant hole in the wall showed the outside city, burning, crumbling, full of giant shadows moving through the smoke. But they didn't look. They focused on the firefighter. "Is there a way down?" Jacob's mom asked. "There's one emergency exit that's still holding up," he said. "But we need to move fast. These buildings aren't lasting much longer." He led them down the hall, using his flashlight to guide the way. The floor creaked so loudly Jacob felt his legs shake with every step. Suddenly, a loud crash behind them. Jacob turned. A giant claw punched through the ceiling, ripping the floor open. Dust exploded. A loud roar shook the hallway. "It's coming after us," Jacob shouted. "Run," the firefighter yelled. They sprinted through the hallway as more claws burst through the ceiling behind them, tearing open rooms, smashing walls, destroying everything in their path. They reached the emergency door. The firefighter pushed it open. A metal stairway led downward, shaking, twisting, barely attached. But it was their only chance. "Geo," he yelled. Jacob and his mom rushed onto the staircase, each step swaying dangerously. Pieces of metal broke off and fell into the burning street below. Sirens wailed. Helicopters circled overhead. Halfway down the stairs, Jacob made the mistake of looking up. The creature was climbing down the side of the building, 10 times faster now. Its glowing mouth opened, rows of sharp, bone-like teeth stretching unnaturally wide. Jacob screamed, "It's coming." The firefighter stepped onto the stairs behind them. "Don't look at it. Just keep moving." They reached the final section when the stairs shook violently. The monster was almost on top of them. The firefighter shoved Jacob and his mom forward. "Jump. Jump now." They jumped the last 3 feet, landing hard on the ground. The firefighter wasn't behind them. Jacob turned and screamed. The creature slammed its claw into the stairs, ripping them off the building. The firefighter fell with them, down into the smoke below. Jacob covered his mouth to stop himself from crying. His mom grabbed his hand. "Jacob, we have to go." He nodded. Together they ran through the burning streets. Cars were overturned. Street lights hung by wires. Firefighters tried to put out flames while police shouted for people to run. Helicopters shined spotlights on giant shapes moving through smoke. At least 6 monsters now roamed the city. One knocked over a bridge. One smashed through a hospital. Another crawled across rooftops like a giant spider. The entire city shook with destruction. Jacob and his mom ducked into an alley as one monster passed, shaking the ground so hard Jacob fell to his knees. He looked up. More cracks were forming. Not just in the streets. In the sky. The clouds twisted unnaturally, glowing the same pale blue color he saw from the monster's mouth. The city sirens died. The wind stopped. Everything became too quiet. His mom whispered, "Jacob, what's happening now?" Jacob stared at the sky as the cracks grew larger. And then he saw it. A giant shadow moving behind the clouds. Bigger than buildings. Bigger than mountains. Bigger than every monster in the city below. Jacob whispered one word. No. The sky cracked open, and something far worse than the monsters began to descend.